Welcome in, everyone. Once again, it is your favorite podcast. It is the Woo Fantasy Podcast right here, brought to you by rotoballer.com. As always, rotoballer.com, your one-stop shop for all things fantasy. We are live here in Atlanta, Georgia at Park Bench in the Battery, next to the stadium down here for the Braves, conducting this year's Scott Fish Bowl live draft right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Just got through the opening festivities of the draft. If you've gone on to Twitter at Roto Superstar, you've seen I've kind of shared some of the things that are going on currently through the draft so far. And I've got draft slots are ready to go in both the Waffle House division as well as the Coca-Cola division, where I am currently slotted into the Coca-Cola division. I'm going to be drafting from the 6th spot, sharing the draft board as well, so you can also kind of keep track of things and how the draft is unfolding. So we are 3 picks into the Coca-Cola division so far. Got Travis Kelce right at the start, followed by Pat Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. So from what we've seen early on in a lot of these drafts, this is kind of your typical start. I think the first 4 to 5 picks are kind of your typical draft. The one I've seen, you've seen Travis Kelce go, whether the first pick, second pick so far in these drafts to begin. And then you're going to have the quarterback run, because obviously this is the Scott Fish Bowl. This is that super flex format. As Scott Fish has also pointed out when he presented the scoring format for this year's draft as well, he wanted all things positive. So you have no negative scoring with any quarterback scoring, nothing for turnovers, anything like that. So that's actually a big coup for the scoring format this year as well. So obviously, like I did last year, I'm pulling double duty, drafting as well as broadcasting this live stream for you here on Roto Baller. So glad you can join us. Glad you can kind of keep track. It's good for a lot of the teams that are doing this strictly the online draft. That way you can kind of keep track of things and how they unfold to this point, and helps you with your drafts once they kick off on Monday as well. So something definitely good to keep an eye on, and kind of keeping track of all this here as we're going through. So I'm up at pick 6 here in the draft. And as you can tell, we've got the quarterback run that is going. 4 straight quarterbacks after Kelce. We've gone Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, Lamar Jackson, which has me up on the board now. And I think I will continue that run myself at quarterback. Next best player on the board going to be Joe Burrow coming off the board for me. So Joe Burrow is the pick to continue this quarterback run. What I'm going to be interested to see is going to be how this unfolds the next back half of this first round. Where's Christian McCaffrey going to come off the board? Where is Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase? Where are they going to come off the board? Trevor Lawrence, next pickup after me. So what you can tell, you can see that this is the quarterback run is continuing. From what we have on the board, everyone's going to be kind of really antsy to get that quarterback with that super flex scoring. Everyone's going to be really striving to settle in on that top quarterback and get the foundation of your team built and ready to go. That's kind of what we're accustomed to doing here with these Scott Fish Bowls the last few years. I like this solid foundation to get with Joe Burrow. The wrinkle that you're going to see with this scoring format this year too, as well, is because of the rushing statistics. You're going to get that extra bump for rushing for the first down, whereas the quarterbacks get a 0.1 increase for passing first downs. So it kind of changes a little bit. It gives that a little bit of the extra boost to the running back position, because obviously, as we've seen, whether it's been with myself talking through these drafts, a lot of the ones that I've done on Underdog so far, a lot of the ADP that I've seen through some of these Scott Fish Bowl drafts and stuff, is you kind of want to weigh it. A lot of the regular drafts, we're seeing the wide receivers go fairly early in these drafts. I think the scoring format that we're going to have here is going to help kind of prop up some of the extra running backs. Emily here in the Coca-Cola division wanted to announce her first pick, who she gets, I believe she takes Justin Fields at the 9 spot. So we're also kind of keeping tabs with everybody through the draft here on Sleeper. Everybody's kind of putting in their players as we go along and do this draft here. Justin Fields, the pick by Emily, is something that is kind of a much ballyhooed talk early on through this offseason. There's a lot of hype surrounding Justin Fields. He's going to make that extra progression into year 2. They added wide receiver DJ Moore to the receiving corps around him to try to increase the presence of skill position players around him as well. So I think that's something to keep an eye on with him early on in the season, is how well that they acclimate. Let's see. Keeping track of things here. Well, let's see. All right. Got everything going. So we're down to towards the end of the first round here. As you're looking at the back half of the first round, so we had Mark Andrews go. Pick 8 right there in front of Emily's Justin Fields pick. She goes Justin Fields, followed by Justin Herbert. And if you've seen anything here lately, I did post my ADP duels article over at Roto Baller earlier this past week. That was the discussion point of that article, was the decision between Justin Fields and Justin Herbert. And I went Justin Fields myself as well there. So I think that's a smart selection. And there we go. We got Justin Jefferson coming off the board here at pick 11 down here towards the end of round 1. I was wondering when those guys would kind of come off the board. Trevor Lawrence, though, I do kind of want to touch on that. That's, he's got a lot of hype surrounding him as well because of the increase in skill position players around him. We saw a lot of promise towards the end of the season last year. So that's something that obviously you want to go get your players in drafts like these, regardless of ADP. You don't want to be a slave to the ADP, and just follow strict scripts in these type of drafts. You want to go get your players regardless of where they are on the board. And I think that's kind of the selection that was made there by McKechnie, pick 2-6 or 1-5 there in the first round. Went and kind of got his player. Getting down, wrapping up the first round. Kind of similar from what I've seen. Following the 2 drafts, the Buffalo side from Thursday night, kind of similar setups as far as how these drafts were unfolding, as far as players selected in the first round. Nothing really too far out of the ordinary yet. I haven't really seen reaches to a degree. Like I said, I think Lawrence went a little bit earlier than I was expecting, but I'm okay with the pick. It's nothing really too far-fetched because of the scoring system, because you want to kind of go get your own players. I can respect that. So nothing wrong there with that particular pick. Wrapping up round 1 here. Waiting to see what the pick is. I believe we have Christian McCaffrey off the board here to end round 1, if I'm not mistaken. And got Henry Muto here. 5 minutes per pick. Actually, no, we're kind of taking it a little bit easy here. We're wanting to have a more relaxed atmosphere, have everybody kind of enjoy this draft. We're going to go through 10 rounds today, and that's it. Going to call it a day at that point, and then we will kick back off with everyone else come Monday when the online leagues begin for the Scott Fish Bowl 13. Henry also saying adjust my screen to fit all 12 spots. Haven't really had too much accessibility with sleeper. So if you want to shoot that into the chat there to give me the idea. I don't want to play around with it too much while I'm working here. If you want to kind of give me the heads up there and show me where I need to adjust that at. But other than that, let's go over to the Waffle House division as well, kind of get a look and see how their first round is unfolded and kind of get some talking points with them. Let's see. So they start off Jalen Hurts at 1, Josh Allen 2, Travis Kelce 3, Mahomes 4. Like I said, first 4 picks, pretty standard. Not a lot of difference between who's coming off the board, but it's going to be a mixture. What you're going to see in a lot of the drafts across Scott Fish Bowls, they're going to kind of change from point and pick to pick and how things are kind of unfolding. I think that's pretty standard. Joe Burrow coming off the board there at 1-5, followed by Herbert, Lawrence, Jackson, Fields yet to come off the board in this division. Kind of a surprise. I figured he would kind of come off the board middle part of this first round in this division here. So we're already kind of seeing a little bit of distinctions between the two divisions here. That's what you want. I mean, you don't want to see drafts coming off the board exactly the same. As you see here with the Waffle House division, you've got McCaffrey coming off the board here at pick 1-9, followed by Jefferson. Their Fields comes off the board at 1-11 as Waffle House is wrapping up their first round. Flipping back over to the Coke division here. The double running back start at the end of the board for Raz B. Dunn going McCaffrey and Eckler. I'm okay with that. It's not really a start that you're going to see too much, but it's definitely a different strategy for sure. So then you have Deshaun Watson, also another player that a lot of people, there's a lot of talk surrounding him. That how will he fare in the second year with the Cleveland Browns? They also improved the receiving situation around him, bringing in Elijah Moore, drafting Cedric Tillman. There's a lot of expectations surrounding Deshaun Watson, and I think you're seeing that with his ADP in a lot of drafts up until this point. A lot of players kind of excited with him and what he can do in that offense. So that remains to be seen as well. You do see Bijan Robinson coming off the board there, followed by Derrick Henry as well. Yeah. So we got a little bit of some of the running backs coming off the board there. And that's something to kind of keep in mind and watch, because you're seeing a lot of these early drafts that I'm looking at so far. A lot of people are kind of drafting based on what you would see in a normal draft, in my humble opinion. You're seeing a lot of people kind of get these wide receivers early on, but with the Scott Fish Bowl scoring format, you do kind of want to go after and attack that running back position because of the added bonuses that they do get in this particular draft. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as your drafts are unfolding and they start on Monday with the online leagues. That's the good benefit that you're getting to see with our early live drafts here in Atlanta. The ones that they did in Buffalo Thursday night. I believe they did some in London as well yesterday. So that's definitely something to kind of keep in mind and look for and use as tools as you develop your own strategy for Scott Fish Bowl 13. It didn't even dawn on me at all as well either. Derrick Henry, the pick to Emily Yo MCAT there at with the second round pick. Big Titans fan. So much ballyhooed homer pick that we saw here with Emily in that selection. Kirk Cousins to Mr. Football. As we're seeing, he went tight end first round, going ahead and kind of trying to solidify the quarterback position as he went the separate direction in round one. So Jamar Chase goes right in front of me, preventing me from going with the Bengals stack here. And which brings it back to me. I've got Joe Burrow, of course, and I am up on the board looking at what I'm kind of wanting to go with here. I've already got Joe Burrow. I'm solidified at my quarterback one. Not really wanting to go look at another quarterback just yet. And I think the pick that I'm going to make on the board right now, I'm going to try to go ahead and get an anchor running back on this squad. And I'm going to go with a guy that's looking to get paid, have a big season this year, second year with Brian Daboll offense in the New York Giants. I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley as the selection here. Gives me a little bit of added flexibility with the receiving chops that he does have in this backfield. So I think that's kind of a good solid pick for me. And so after that, we're going to go with, and there we go. Pick is in there. Saquon Barkley is going to be the selection that I just put in. Part of me wanted to kind of lean to go the route and get Cooper Kupp there. I am very high on Cooper Kupp this year. He's valued as my wide receiver 2 in my rankings that are on rotoballer.com right now. You have to factor in, obviously, those concerns. You have those concerns with the injury and things like that. But I think that's just a one-year glitch that you see. Took a lot of hits leading into that injury, and it just kind of beat him down. But obviously what we saw last year was leading the position at wide receiver in fantasy points per game prior to that injury. I think that's something that he can rebound on and build upon as we come into 2023. Getting into back half second round now in this particular draft here in the Coca-Cola division. We see Tyreek Hill is the selection that was right behind me. Has all the capabilities in the world to be the wide receiver 1 in that Dolphins offense. So I think that's something to kind of buy into with the hype there with Tyreek Hill as well. To Henry said 10 rounds might take 3 hours at this pace. Hey, if it takes 3 hours, it takes 3 hours. I got plenty of time while we're here. Took a nice little vacation to come down here to Atlanta and spend some time, hang out, family, do some things while we're down here. And see. So we got Tyreek Hill. And Austin, if you're, I probably won't broadcast all 10 rounds either. We'll kind of go through the first half of this draft. Might try to go through the first 5 rounds or so.
Take what time you need. Poker rules, we can call hot on somebody. Everybody's
So Nick making the announcement to the room as well too. We're going to take our time, be a little more relaxed atmosphere here with this draft. It's kind of the point of the Scott Fish Bowl is get everybody in the same room, do a little bit of mingling, kind of get used to talking to everybody. It's just a camaraderie thing. Any type of drafts that way, whether you're at home in your home league draft, do an online league with friends, things like that. It's the camaraderie when it boils down to it. Just spending time hanging out with people that are like-minded individuals that love fantasy sports as much as we do. That's the thing you kind of want to do while you're doing a draft similar to this here. But obviously, of course, Scott Fish Bowl charity draft. We're supporting Fantasy Cares. So with your drafts, kind of be flexible to how you do your thing. Use innovative ideas how you want to contribute to the charity. That's kind of what we're here for. We're supporting Knights of Columbus with this live draft today, and that's who we will be supporting. Local charity, so things like that. That's kind of what this whole thing is meant to be. That Scott Fish really wanted it to be. He wanted to bring people together, wanted it to be a charitable contribution thing, and that's what it's done for years now. And that's a great thing. I mean, doing the charity ideas with that is definitely a great thing to go and contribute. And that's what we do with these Scott Fish Bowl drafts, and it's definitely a good thing to look at. So we got followed by the Tyreek Hill pick. We had Nick Chubb coming off the board. And then goes Mr. Coley Cole going back-to-back quarterback to a Tagovailoa here towards the end of the round 2, followed by Jonathan Taylor, which I was kind of wondering when he was going to slide off the board. There's Cooper Kupp to end round 2. Now, keep in mind this is a third-round reversal, so we do slip back to the end of this draft board. So that will be flipping back to Team 12 once we get here. Wanted to flip back over to the Waffle Houses division, see where they're at. Here you see Mark Andrews, who went mid-round 1 in the Coca-Cola division. You got Mark Andrews slipping over around to the third pick in round 2. TJ Hawkinson coming off the board 2 picks later. You're seeing a little bit more fluctuation with this board here. Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins went around about the same area here. Cooper Kupp goes first part of round 2 here, pick 2, round 2, as opposed to pick 12, round 2 in the Coca-Cola division. Taylor getting selected before Barkley in this division, where I took Barkley ahead of Taylor. Like I said, I like Taylor's rushing ability, but I do like Barkley's pass catching abilities to be an added bonus in this particular scoring format. That's why I went with Saquon Barkley here with my pick in the second round. Now coming back around, we have Daniel Jones coming off the board here. First pick, round 3. So that would be his QB1 after the Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler start. Daniel Jones, QB1 for Raz B. Dunn. Not actually going to hate it. You kind of see from a lot of the mocks and the ADP that we've seen up until this point, you kind of see Daniel Jones falling around towards the end of this round 3, and a lot of the mocks that we've seen up until this point. Right, so kind of coming back around, and this is you're starting to see, like, a lot of people already have that first round or 2 plan, a strategy that they already have in place as they kind of come into these drafts. Now we're getting kind of the rubber meets the road, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round. That's where you're going to kind of get to that point. The pace begins to slow. Unless you have a draft clock, pace begins to slow. Guys are really putting the thought process into these picks, deciding where they want to go, how they want to build these rosters. Definitely changes your mindset as the picks really do start coming off the board. And that's kind of something to keep in mind as you kind of progress into your own drafts. Keep in mind, things can fluctuate at the drop of a hat when these drafts actually start. It's all fine and good when we do these mock drafts. You're kind of toying around with roster builds, see where players are going to fall here and there and stuff like that. Once you're really actually in the thick of it, and you're playing to win and draft players that you really honestly want on your team and build your roster, that's where things kind of start to kind of change, and you want to you slow down the pace. You really think out these picks and decide how you want to progress with your team. That's something that I've done drafts now over 25 years that I've been involved in fantasy sports. So, and you see it every single year. You see it how the times change. Back when I first got into fantasy football back in '97, that was very, very quarterback, running back driven with a lot of the drafts because of the scoring and how the NFL was physically played back in those times. Now you see a lot of these wide open offenses. The receiving game is where you see these wide receivers get propped up the board to a degree, and that's kind of how fantasy fluctuates with the times and flows with the times as well. So you kind of want to keep in mind with that and how you're building your teams with drafts like these. Keep in mind how the scoring is. That's the main contributing factor. We can't point that out enough. Scoring matters with these leagues. You have to be well averse to how your scoring is set up, because that really weighs on how your team is going to perform on a weekly basis based on your roster construction. So definitely is an important factor as you build your drafts. So now Dak Prescott coming off the board, second pick in round 3 here. Starting to see how the board's kind of unfolding. really going to get a good idea of how these teams are going to really construct their rosters. You're going to go 2 quarterback fairly early, or you're going to go start to build a lot of the core around him. So there we got Tony Pollard followed up by Josh Jacobs are the next 2 picks. Pollard and Josh Jacobs. Mr. Football next up with the Mark Andrews, Kirk Cousins start. Kind of feel like he might be leaning towards a running back with this particular position here. Try to kind of start to build a foundation there. Kind of getting close to be decision time for myself and how I'm wanting to go as far as selection wise. One thing that I've been kind of shocked by so far, especially in the Coca-Cola division here, is that had the 2 tight ends go in the first round, we have yet to have another tight end selected in this draft. Somewhat surprising. Sitting here perched up atop Park Bench, the Battery here in Atlanta, Georgia, watching both drafts unfold here, Scott Fish Bowl 13. Don't forget to go over to rotoballer.com, all things fantasy. Sign up for our premium package over at rotoballer.com. Promo code WOO. Get you a special discount at checkout as we're continuing to go through the drafts here at the Park Bench, Atlanta, Georgia. Coming up here, looking at some of the way the builds are here, looking at the back end of Coca-Cola division. So Emily, Breezeway, both of those 2 teams go quarterback and then followed by back-to-back running back. I think that's probably going to be a popular start in a lot of the fishbowl drafts. You know, even though, like I said, the conventional thinking in a lot of your drafts that we are currently involved in right now, a lot of teams are wanting to get their wide receivers fairly early on and build their rosters with elite wide receivers and forego the running back position. Not really the optimal way to do those rosters with the Scott Fish Bowl scoring format. So that's kind of something to kind of keep in mind as well there. So Mr. Football goes back-to-back quarterbacks going Russell Wilson, hoping for the rebound from Russell Wilson here. Coming up in year number 2 with the Denver Broncos. McKechnie coming up with the pick right in front of me. Let's see where he wants to go with his selection. And some things that I'm kind of looking at, trying to keep in mind myself, is how the board's unfolding. Got Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown. So he goes quarterback with a Trevor Lawrence, followed by back-to-back wide receivers with Jamar Chase and A.J. Brown. That's an elite start with that position of wide receiver. Not looking great at the running back position right now, of course, like I mentioned. So now coming into my pick here, I'm kind of flexible. Got a number of different areas that I can go in here. I've already got my anchor quarterback, anchor running back with Saquon Barkley. And the name of the game here, when you're looking at it, especially early on in the draft here, is you want opportunity. You want guys that are going to get the ball, that are going to touch the ball quite a bit. And what I'm looking at is going to be a cross between 3 different players currently that I'm looking at. So got Ramondre Stevenson I'm looking at Stephon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb is what I'm currently kind of thinking about myself. And I think what I'm going to want to do, based on the start and how the teams are unfolding, I believe the pick that I'm going to make, I'm going to go with Stephon Diggs. Give me a solid start here with the roster and how this team is going to unfold. I'm kind of set got my team anchors at both quarterback, running back, and now got the anchor position with the wide receiver as well. So just have to implement my the roster here, put my player in for the selection, and wouldn't you know it, as I go into the sleeper app to make my pick, that was actually the next player up on the board was Stefon Diggs. So kind of following certain guidelines there and kind of making the smart pick is what I'm wanting to do there. And as I'm kind of streaming this draft, I need a little bit of help as we're doing the stickering process up on the draft boards as well. I have to make my pick through the sleeper app, and for the teams down in the pit area, naming out my selection as we kind of keep going. So far, liking the start. Joe Burrow, Saquon Barkley, Stefon Diggs, looking at tops at each position. Kind of gives me a good solid start. Nice foundation, which is really all you can ask for in a lot of the drafts like this. You want that solid foundation as your drafts are kind of coming underway. CeeDee Lamb, next pick up, following behind my Stefon Diggs pick. Kind of what I thought would be the case. Like I said, I thought those were two of the key players that were going to be available at that point in time. I'm taking a little bit of a risk here just to see possibly if Ramondre Stevenson will fall back to me. But now I'm kind of in a spot too where this is where you have to start as you're doing your drafts. You want to kind of study the board and see how the things are laid out with current selections and things like that. And you want to base your selections kind of how your draft is unfolding back behind you. So as we see TJ Hockenson coming off the board, I'm going to have to go with that second quarterback here pretty soon. Key factor here is going to be a lot of the teams that are in front of me on the first half of this board have one quarterback. Team over here, Beats by Dre, pick one, has yet to select a quarterback. Got to figure one of these next two picks at the turn is going to be a quarterback, if not double quarterback. So when I come back to my pick here in round 4, what do I want to do? Do I want to go ahead and take that second quarterback? That's where my mind is starting to lean a little bit at this point in time now. Because you have to figure that a lot of these quarterbacks are going to kind of start to kind of come off the board here in this 4th, 5th round. Somewhat surprised, though, to see TJ Hockenson fall in this particular division all the way back to towards the end, pick 9 here in round 3. He seems like a guy in this tight end premium scoring format. You're usually going to see a guy like that go fairly early on. So that's kind of surprising to see him go at that point in time. In that point in time, pick 10, round 3, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Much hype surrounding Amon-Ra St. Brown right now. Obviously, Jameson Williams suspended for the first 6 games. Amon-Ra St. Brown is just an absolute target monster in week-to-week scoring formats. I like that pick there. He was also another guy that I was kind of looking at, targeting there with my selection. Kind of had a little bit of a finger cross situation. Maybe there would be a chance that he would have fell back to me. As we have the ambiance of NFL Films music playing in the background as well behind us. I'm not sure if any of you can hear that on the stream, but NFL Films music playing behind us as well. Henry jumping in, letting us know quarterbacks going a little slower in this than underdog super flex drafts. Exactly, they will. Like I said, I think you see a lot of the Scott Fish Bowl drafts, especially the live ones that I've been a part of the last couple of years. You see those quarterbacks, that's pushing forward. That's everybody wants to get that quarterback early on. But then this year, what I've noticed different from last year, there's a little bit of a difference in a drop-off after you get that first quarterback. You see a lot of these guys kind of start to filter in and go after different positions at that point in time. So that's something that's a good point out by Henry there. The quarterbacks are going slower. That's something that I did mention to my co-host Nick Heffley, that's hosting the draft festivities here at Park Bench. As I noticed with those Buffalo drafts, is that there you saw a stark difference between first-round quarterback selections and then a little bit of a slower pace over the course of the next 2 rounds. Just like I mentioned a few minutes ago, Beats by Dre here at the beginning of Coca-Cola division goes back-to-back quarterback. Kind of saw that coming. I figured they were going to kind of try to hammer the point home and go and get their quarterbacks. Geno Smith followed by Jared Goff. I don't hate it. I do like that. Jared Goff. Yeah, I'm not so necessarily high on Geno Smith. I think you're going to see more of the Geno Smith that we saw in the last 6 to 8 weeks of last season. That he began to struggle. Teams figuring it out, things like that. I think that's going to be something that you're going to typically see with Geno Smith this year. Obviously, they did draft Jackson Smith and Jigba. There's some expectation that they're going to throw the ball a little bit more and be more kind of geared towards a balanced offense and try to pass the ball a little bit more in 2023. I would be suspect to think that, because we all know Pete Carroll and his affinity for the love of the run game, which they also did draft Zach Charbonnet. So now you have that two-headed running backfield between Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. I think that's going to be right up Pete Carroll's wheelhouse, and you're going to see them run the ball a lot more, or not a lot more, but as normal what we see from the Seattle Seahawks. Jared Goff, a guy that I feel there's a little bit of a sleeper aspect to him this year. I think they're building something in Detroit. I think that offense is starting to come around. We saw they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, so they're wanting to kind of have a little bit more of an unpredictability on offense. Don't know exactly what they're doing. DeAndre Swift is out. Jamal Williams is out. In comes David Montgomery. In comes Jahmyr Gibbs. So you're going to see, I think, a lot more excitingness, to say the least. A lot of excitement from that Detroit Lions offense this year, and I think it bodes well for Jared Goff. Is it going to be a league winner? No, not to that degree. Is he going to be a solid quarterback too in a super flex scoring system? Obviously, I think so there. I think he's a great get as your QB2 in a lot of these scoring formats. We see Davante Adams finally coming off the board, pick 2, round 4. That's going to be something to kind of keep an eye on. I myself am not very high on Davante Adams. Obviously, the quarterback change, the already injured Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback for those Las Vegas Raiders. I think it's going to really kind of hinder the numbers that we've been accustomed to seeing from Davante Adams. As you see, Mr. Coley Cole going and getting the guy that I was looking at possibly in this next round here with Ramondre Stevenson. I think he's going to be an absolute monster in this scoring format because of the added bonuses that you're getting per rush attempt, per first down achieved. He's going to be the centerpiece of that New England offense. Let's be honest, they don't have anybody to compete with him in that backfield right now. I know there's been the scuttlebutt and the talk about Dalvin Cook potentially. They could bring in a Kareem Hunt. They could bring in a Leonard Fournette just to bring in another veteran presence after the departure of Damian Harris. I get it. But Ramondre Stevenson is the go-to guy for the New England Patriots. We saw him finish top 5, top 6 in fantasy scoring last year, especially once Damian Harris went down. The man was consistent for a good portion of the 2022 season. So I like that pick there. I think he's definitely a solid guy to have. He's the number 1 running back for Mr. Coley Cole after he started Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Ramondre Stevenson. So good start. And Terp goes and gets the next guy that I was looking at on my potential board right now with Aaron Rodgers. Thought about grabbing him there. That was going to be the next guy that I was looking at on the board. So now as things are unfolding on the update draft board here and see what we're looking at. So we got Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, Dan Brown going with the trifecta at wide receiver. Garrett Wilson to to combine with Tyreek Hill, CD Lamb. That is what you would say is a traditional start right now in a lot of these scoring formats. So now that there's a clear tier break in quarterback right now, from what I can tell. So I'm kind of looking away from quarterback position and trying to decide where I want to lean, where I want to go right now with some of the positions that are available and on the board, and looking at how this is unfolding. Looking at my board, let's see here. And I think I'm going to go back to the well at running back. Obviously, like I said, you want to take guys that are going to get opportunities. That's the name of the game when it comes to this particular scoring format and how the scoring is kind of unfolding. Looking at the board, I'm kind of at a cross between Breece Hall coming off the injury. Things seem to be okay there. Got Najee Harris and that Pittsburgh Steelers offense. A lot of opportunity there, but obviously an efficiency dip in 2022. So which Najee Harris are we getting in 2023? I think I'm going to go with Breece Hall here as my running back 2 in this particular draft. Solidify my 1 and 2 running back positions. Like I said, I wanted to kind of look at the quarterback position here in this round, but there's a clear tier break after Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to kind of shy away from that and start to look at elsewhere as I'm building this roster. Travis Etienne coming off the board as McKechnie takes Travis Etienne as his RB1. Much ballyhooed Travis Etienne. A lot of talk, a lot of conjecture around him in the offseason so far leading into this draft. As the Jaguars, of course, they bring in Tank Bigsby via the NFL draft to compete, maybe take a little bit of load off of Travis Etienne. Obviously, Henry mentioning what I just did, what I made on this podcast here and what on this show. QB's getting slim now for the proven guys. Absolutely. That's what you're seeing here as we get into the early stages, mid stages, round 4. A lot of these quarterbacks are off the board. That if you're looking to go kind of heavy to QB in the super flex scoring system, those guys are off the board now. So now you're wanting to kind of look at how the board's unfolding, where you want to build elsewhere, and that's what I'm looking at myself. So looking at Breece Hall, the difference between Breece Hall and Najee Harris, what I was talking about with my selection. Yes, Breece Hall's coming off the injury, clean ACL tear, as opposed to the difference between he and Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams, multiple tears in the knee. There's always that, you have that little bit of a pause with running backs coming off of ACL tears the following year. Breece Hall is my RB2. I think I can take a little bit of that risk on. You're hearing all the right things from Breece Hall right now coming out of the Jets camp, is that he's going to be ready to go, should be ready to go week 1, healthy and 100%. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to take that risk on. And if he's anything close to what we saw Breece Hall prior to injury last year, even if you're getting an 80 to 85% Breece Hall, and you're getting a guy that's obviously going to put up RB2 numbers, in my opinion, with that improved New York Jets offense with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback now. So I'm very much okay with that pick. Now what we're going to be looking at as we're going to get into the beginning stages of round 5, and want to see how tight ends coming off the board, tight end premium scoring, you kind of want to look at that. So right now, my risk that I'm taking and what I'm looking at potentially is I'm thinking there's a couple tight ends that are still out there. Obviously, you're looking at Kyle Pitts. Obviously, you're looking at Darren Waller. And then you have a tier break, similar to the quarterback that we just encountered with Aaron Rodgers. That's what I'm looking at currently at this point in time. If I could get one of those 2 tight ends coming back to me in this pick 5 seventh pick, round 5. That's what I'm going to be looking at right here. I think that's going to be the optimal start. At this point in time, the way that the quarterback board looks, I think I'm okay and I'm comfortable with waiting on quarterback a little bit longer, because a lot of the guys that are available at this point in time, you're getting a lot of the same tier worth of guys. You're getting into those guys like Bryce Young. You're getting into the Kenny Pickett's, Matthew Stafford's, Derek Carr's of the world in that form. So for me, I'm okay taking a little bit of a pause right now, because I don't think people are going to really be gung-ho and attacking quarterback to get Matthew Stafford, to get Kenny Pickett, guys like that. I don't think you're going to see a big charge on those particular types of players. We see Mr. Football. Interesting start here. Mark Andrews, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, followed by Kyle Pitts. 2 quarterback, 2 tight end. I'm not going to hate on that. You're playing the system. You're going to attack the Scott Fish Bowl from a different form than what other people are doing. You want to separate yourself from the pack, and that's something that you're doing with that particular start right there. I'm not going to hate on that. So that's not a bad start there. I like that start. Different, but possibly effective. And that's what you're looking at, and that's what you're really striving for with these big field tournaments like the Scott Fish Bowl is. So I'm not going to hate on that. I'm going to flip over to the Waffle House division, kind of catch up on things over here. Looks like I kind of sped up to a degree on their particular draft. So let's see if I can kind of get an idea of how the board unfolds on this particular league here. We have back end of the round here. Wow. Seeing Tyreek Hill go first pick, round 3, A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry last all the way to the 3rd pick, round 3. You're seeing Kyle Pitts, 4th pick, round 3, just went off the board in round 4 in the Coca-Cola division. Again, like I said, so much delineation between the 2 different divisions. You're seeing different strategies at play in these particular drafts. You got to love it. So you're seeing more tight ends come off the board in round 4, up through round 4 than we're seeing in the Coca-Cola division. Over here on the end, got Dallas Goedert, George Kittle to start off round 4. Tony Pollard makes it all the way to the 4th pick in round 4. I am shocked by where he went there. Followed by Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle coming off the board. And there we go. Jahmyr Gibbs coming off the board. Pick 10, round 4. I was wondering where we were going to start kind of see him mix in, because there's a lot of hype surrounding Jahmyr Gibbs and what he can possibly do in that Detroit Lions offense. So that is definitely something to look at, how this team is getting built and how things are unfolding. What I'm looking at here between the 2 divisions, Waffle House, I do not see the 3 wide receiver start that we have in the Coca-Cola division. Like I said, differences in draft strategy. You gotta love to see it. People kind of attacking these drafts a little bit differently than what we're seeing in other divisions. So I'm kind of blending in, mixing in kind of a little bit of best player available type of draft mindset when it comes to my team. Like I said, when it comes to the quarterbacks, I'm okay with where I'm at right now. Joe Burrow being that anchor quarterback, much is to be expected of him. Probably the only thing right now that I wish Jamar Chase probably would have fell so I could complete the stack, the Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow stack. And I'm not gonna hang my hat on that. I'm not gonna cry in my beer, so to speak. So that's something to kind of you play the draft as it comes to you. We've always talked about that here on this podcast, or you even hear from other analysts in the fantasy industry, is how things you want to kind of change as the draft comes to you. So then finishing up round 4, we have Matthew Stafford come off the board. So we have Rasby Don here on the end going McCaffrey, Eckler, Daniel Jones, Matthew Stafford. So kind of built his foundation of quarterback and running back. So now you're going to probably see that particular team start to attack other positions now as the draft is unfolding. So Breezeway going Herbert, Bijan Robinson, Tony Pollard, Jalen Waddle. Don't hate that start. I like that start there with that particular team. Now, how are we going to build that roster after that? Kind of similar to me. What are we going to do at QB2, Superflex? What are we going to do at tight end premium scoring? Kind of want to see how things unfold there. Najee Harris going pick 11 to D-Row here at the end of 4, pick 11. His RB1 after the Justin Jefferson, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott start team as things are unfolding currently as well. So I like how some of these drafts are kind of coming together. If you're following along on the stream, watching the stream, shoot us a comment. Let us know, what you can see so far. What do you hate? What do you like? How are these teams unfolding? How are you using these draft boards to build your strategy for your Scott Fishbowl draft? So that's something to kind of keep in mind. Let me know. Let's get a little bit of interaction here going. I'll definitely love to hear from people. Henry also appreciate it. Tight ends falling in yours. If I can get Kittle or Goddard in round 5, I'd be #winning. I love it. Yes, that's what the goal is here. Hopefully, want to get one of those particular tight ends in this next round. That's what I'm striving for. This has been kind of Scott Fishbowl drafts previously. That's been one I've kind of typically punted at the tight end position, and it's kind of cost me in the past couple of seasons. I've not really had that solid foundation at tight end, and it kind of puts me in a situation where I'm behind the pack, so to speak, and scoring on a weekly basis. So now we're looking at George Kittle come off the board there to Rasby Dunn. So that's one name off the list. Like I said, you got George Kittle off the board. Next couple guys, like you mentioned, we did
mention.
Guys,
just as a reminder, we'll take a quick break after round 5. Okay?
We did mention that Dallas Goedert, Henry mentioned him as well. But next on my tier is going to be Darren Waller. That's the guy that I'm looking at. Dallas Goedert comes off the board immediately following George Kittle. So now you're going to see I'm on pins and needles. Ladies and gentlemen, on pins and needles. Can I count on 2 of the next 3 teams to not take a tight end? You got Emily is going to be on the clock. You got Breezeway that's on the clock right now. And then McKechnie in front of me. So we got 3 out of the next 4 picks have yet to take a tight end. They have 1 quarterback, 1 wide receiver. Are they going to go after a wide receiver? Are they going to go after a second quarterback? Or are they going to go get the tight end? And taking a tight end, and there he is, Darren Waller, Breezeway, sniping me, kills me right there. Darren Waller off the board, absolutely kicked me right in the gut with that pick. 3 straight tight end to begin round 5. So going to put me in a position where I'm going to have to become a little bit more flexible here with my selections. And just kind of looking at the board. I'm thinking we might still target the tight end position here in this round. And I'm looking at, obviously, the guy that really blew up off the map last year, Evan Ingram. Definitely a guy that was heavily targeted in that Jaguars offense last year. Comes back to the Jaguars this year for 2023. He's the guy that I'm looking at here, and then also Pat Freiermuth. I think those are the 2 guys that you have to think in terms of the scoring as well. You're getting those extra added bonus points for tight end receptions, tight end first down receptions. So they're highly more valuable when it comes to that. And so those two particular players, Pat Freiermuth, Evan Ingram, are two particular guys that I'm looking at. They're not going to be field stretchers, but they're going to be guys that are going to get past their down markers and guys that are going to get targeted for first down receptions, chain moving type of guys in their respective offenses. Obviously with Kenny Pickett, he's not a guy that's going to push the ball down the field too much. He's going to look towards a lot Deontay Johnson, and he's going to look over the middle to Pat Freiermuth. There's already a little bit of that camaraderie and that chemistry between those two players, so that's something that I like to keep in mind as we're looking at this pick coming up. So Emily at her selection here, pick 4, round 5, goes T. Higgins. Not gonna hate on that one. I like that selection. As Nick announced just a couple minutes ago, we're going to take a break here around 5. Probably I'll try to bring in a couple, 2-3 people, bring them in, talk about their draft so far. And as we get into the latter stages of this draft, gonna probably go ahead and wrap up the early stages of the broadcast with the live stream here. Hopefully, I'm giving you a good indication of how these things are going to unfold. Good starting perspective for your particular drafts. Like I said, the Scott Fish Bowl kicks off and starts officially for the online leagues this coming Monday. I know everyone's excited to kind of get things started, get things underway. Joe Mixon off the board to Mr. Football as his RB1 with the Andrews Pitt start, Cousins Russell Wilson start, and then there we go. Pat Freiermuth coming off the board right in front of me. So I think that's going to help make my decision on my selection. And I think that's where I am going to potentially go here with Evan Ingram. It's going to be my selection. Coming off that big year last year, is it a little bit of a reach? Potentially. But we need to go ahead and solidify that tight end position. Obviously, you got Calvin Ridley coming into the offense this year. Yeah, all weapons are back. I think the offense is going to be a little bit more streamlined this year. How will that chemistry develop early on between Ridley and Trevor Lawrence? Will that chemistry between Evan Ingram and Lawrence that we saw towards the end of last year continue and be a solid option, a QB tight end connection? That's what I'm going to be hoping for with this potential selection right here. So I'm going to go Evan Ingram to give myself my tight end in this particular draft. Now you're looking at my team: Joe Burrow, Saquon Barkley, Stephon Diggs, Breece Hall, Evan Ingram. Solid start. Hate that tight end run happened here at the beginning of this round. I would love my start even more had I got one of the first 3 guys that came off at the beginning of the round: Waller, Goddard, Kittle. Either one of those 3 in this spot in the 5th round, I would be in heaven right now with this start. I think I've got things kind of going in the right direction with this potential start at the way this draft is kind of unfolding. Now, looking at going over to the Waffle House division. Let's kind of see how things look over here. So round 5 starting off with the Waffle House division. You got Jared Goff, Darren Waller, ETN, Devontae Smith, which lasted a little bit longer, Freiermuth, Calvin Ridley, which we just talked about prior to my Evan Ingram selection. See how things were kind of looking there. Keenan Allen. There's our 3 wide receiver start here. So we've got 3 teams on this side of the board that have gone with the 3 wide receiver start in the Waffle House division. So you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Keenan Allen to go, coupled with Justin Herbert and Kirk Cousins. Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen completes the Los Angeles Chargers stack successfully. Gotta love to see that. That's definitely something a lot of teams are going to look to do. Big field tournaments, stacking is always key. So that's something to look at there. I like that start. Kind of back on this other end here where things are kind of starting to build as we hit this break point here in the Waffle House division at the end of round 5. Back over to my division and Coca-Cola. You can see got Jahmyr Gibbs coming off the board right behind me, followed by Chris Olave. We'll see how. I think that's probably going to be your sweet spot with Jahmyr Gibbs in a lot of these drafts. Is going to be in this kind of the early to mid round 5 position for those of you that are wanting to jump aboard the Jahmyr Gibbs hype train. And that's where you're going to have to jump in and grab him. Chris Olave, we're looking at a team that's hoping to get a little bit of a boost from the acquisition of Derek Carr. Hopefully solidify that quarterback position for the New Orleans Saints down there this year in 2023. Don't hate that. I like that. I like that selection of Olave. Can he build in his sophomore season? That's what they're planning on. That's why they went and got a solid quarterback. They're wanting to kind of help improve that offense. Obviously, Alvin Kamara, that's kind of another wild card in drafts like this. We don't know his situation yet. Going to get suspended eventually, but when will he get suspended? How many games will the suspension be? At this point in time now, it's dragging on so late. This could be a potential situation where Alvin Kamara does not get the suspension this year, and you're going to have teams get him at a premium price, and he's going to play all season long. Or you could see the situation what we saw similar to Ezekiel Elliott back a number of seasons ago, where Ezekiel Elliott gets suspended in the back half of the season.
We're on like a 5 to 10 minute break.
And
Let's just say 15 minutes.
there you go.
Everybody wants to chill, go out, get some food, hang out, grab a drink. We were 7 picks behind these guys, and now we're 3 out.
No, get over here. You can get over here and get in the camera, sir.
Hey, what's going on?
There we go. We got Jeff DiMatteo jumping in.
Oh, hey, I'll sit down.
Coming in here to join in the festivities. One of the guys who's helping out a lot with the draft here. Follow him at
NFL_DiMatteo. DIMATTEO.
on Twitter. So definitely go and follow him. And here we
There
go.
he is.
Nick Heffley, the
What?
organizer of the festivities here with our Scott
How are
Fish
you feeling,
Bowl.
B? I haven't even looked at your draft.
So
Where
let's
did you go?
let's talk about my draft so far.
Who's the quarterback there?
Joe Burrow, my
Okay.
selection,
I like
pick
that.
6, followed by
Barkley,
Diggs, Breece Hall, Evan Ingram. That's how my start
Well,
has gone. So
You were
here's-
talking you wanted a good tight end. Unfortunately, I don't think you got one.
Well, that remains to be seen. I'll tell
And
you
then-
this.
Well, actually, let's ask the tight end whisperer right here.
This is what I was talking about on the stream as we led into this. Round 5, we had the tight end run to begin the round. I was targeting either one of those 3 here with this pick in round 5, and they all fly off the board immediately to begin this
Well, that's
round.
unfortunate.
Yeah, that's
So-
rough.
Yeah, so kind of had to fluctuate, go a different direction. So that's how the board's unfolding over here. Coca-Cola so far. ladies
Kind of
and
what
gentlemen.
happened to me. We didn't have a tight end run, but I was looking for a couple, and they just kind of popped right before I was ready
Did
to
I
pick.
Right.
Did I get Kyle Pitts from you? Please tell me.
You did. Yeah,
Yeah,
Kyle,
okay,
Kyle
cool.
Pitts
Sweet.
and Hawk were both very much on my radar, and got sniped on both there.
Not to mention, I haven't brought this up yet, but matching Scott
Matching-
Fish Bowl
we
12
ordered-
shirts.
We're coordinated.
They coordinated with the draft, ladies and
What you
gentlemen.
can't see is we have matching colored shoes and shorts. It's a little
And,
weird.
and underwear.
It's got a little weird.
They dressed together this
Yeah.
morning, ladies and gentlemen. That's what happened over here at this
Let's see,
particular
where-
draft.
Whose draft do I like better on you guys' side? Let's scroll a little bit to the left here. Let's see whose draft I like the
You
best
get
on
down
you guys.
here.
No. Well, you're
Yeah.
going the wrong way.
No, I know. I gotta get over here to bring up the
Here we
draft a
go.
little bit
All
better.
right, now we're going.
So here we go.
Okay.
And I'll point this out too. Got robbed on my start, the Bengal stack.
But we're not talking about
I know. I'm just pointing it out.
That's true.
Okay.
I
Okay.
kind of like Mr. Coley Cole over here.
I was just looking at the same team, like 2 pretty good quarterbacks starting out.
Yeah.
The running backs are solid. It got a good solid number 1 in Amon Ra. I mean, tight end notwithstanding, but
Well, it seems to me like after you get through the top 4 or 5 tight ends, there's not a lot of separation.
let's go a little right here. Let's see what we got toward the end here.
There we go.
D-Row 13's got a nice squad.
That's the team I was just looking at.
Yeah, that's a good
I
solid
don't-
start. I
yeah.
pointed that
And
out as
Brees
well.
has got a good one too. I like having Herbert, Bijan together. I mean, those 2 guys are studs. I like them both in this
Yep.
this format.
Tell you what, though, my strategy is working out to utter perfection.
Yeah. You have a strategy?
Yeah.
I don't.
every year. Jeff just goes best player available, and then I just
Yeah.
kind of I have a little small strategy, at least from doing all these Scott Fishbowl drafts, of what to do. And it is just
Chef's kiss
There it is.
so far.
So there it is, folks. He already said it. He's going to win Scott Fishbowl 13. I guess we can all go home.
Yeah, you might as well just not even do
I
your
didn't say
draft.
that. I'm gonna win our division. Beyond that, I don't know.
It's a wild card
Well, I mean,
after
who
that.
else do we have? Like, what's going on in our division? I've been watching my team. I haven't watched the
Can
other
you want to
teams.
pull up our division here?
Yeah, pull
So
the
we
Waffle
can-
House here. I know
Okay,
two-
hey, there we go.
Yeah, we're taking a
So
hard-
who do I actually like? Because I've just been putting stickers in here. Who do I actually like? No.
I actually do like your team. I like Pitts. I like McCaffrey. I like Najee. Devonta Smith. Like, there's just a lot of really rock solid players there.
Yeah.
And McCaffrey, obviously, I mean, as long as he's healthy, that's immeasurable upside at the running back spot. That Niners offense is no joke.
So I do like, our sticker guy from last year, Wayne. I do like Wayne's team. Wayne took Lamar Jackson right out from under me. Eckler there. Daniel Jones, I got in the 10th round last year, is my number 3 quarterback. And Daniel Jones was top 10 quarterback last year. Very good pick. I like the Waddle guy. Freiermuth is probably my favorite tight end this year. I got Pitts because, let's face it, I think Pitts is going to be top 3.
Sure.
But Freiermuth is probably going to be 4.
I think
Yeah,
that's gonna shock the world.
Rotonaut. I think Rotonaut's got a great team too. Pat Mahomes and Prescott, Barkley, Pollard, Metcalf here is his number 1 wide receiver. I think is a really solid start as well. So
I agree.
I think those are my probably my favorite teams. Obviously outside of my head.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's kind of where, like, on mine, I like mine a lot because I smashed wide receiver there 3 rounds in a row.
Yep.
And getting 3 guys that I feel like can catch 100 balls felt good. But, outside of that, yeah, I think Wayne's got a great team. I do like your team a lot there.
Okay.
I don't really have another team that I'm like, that's a lock.
Kirky Cousins was scary, like really good. Like he was kind of the Jared Goff.
He's efficient in the scoring format. That's the thing.
The guy as well who last year, luckily for me, I guess I did not take, was Justin Herbert in any league last year. And I feel like he's a rebound candidate.
Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, is going to
Correct.
help that offense a ton.
Absolutely. They're going to want to push the ball a lot more, higher YPA type offense.
I'm not going to lie. I was really hoping. I wanted to be in the front half, being able to pick, and having picked 9, I was like, I'm not going to get any of these quarterbacks. I just know it. But I really want Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert if they fall to me. They did not fall. I'm still. My decision on my first round pick was McCaffrey or Fields. And as a Bears fan, I can't believe I didn't go with Fields.
I was going to bring that up.
But the second round quarterbacks, I knew I'd either be able to get my choice. I didn't think Fields would make it of Watson, Prescott, or somebody at all.
Yeah.
McCaffrey, if he's healthy, he's going to be good. And that's the only question about it year in, year out.
Yeah. No,
How
I
about
agree.
Matt Gerard's
Who would you? Yeah. No. Yeah. So Matt finished top 400, I think, last year. Very interesting strategy, much like yours. You got your quarterback, you got your receivers. He's got his tight end. You don't have your tight end. From the tight end whisperer, not having a tight end.
Y'all keep just robbing me. I every time I feel like I'm getting a tight end, he comes off the board, and I'm just going to take the best players that are falling to me. Last year I got a bunch of tight ends. This year y'all are scared of me taking them, so you're jumping me here.
Yeah. Yeah. You know the guy's going to take them. You might as well
Jeff's
rob
changing
him.
his Twitter handle right after.
That's right.
Right after the draft.
No, that's so like separate from what y'all's draft went Kelsey at 3 yards, started off with Kelsey at 1. That's what I was going to bring up with you is how close were you to take Fields over McCaffrey, because obviously we saw McCaffrey go to round 1 on ours.
It was 50-50. I mean, I could have gone Fields and probably Eckler or Watson and McCaffrey.
Yep.
I think it's pretty even. I think Watson's going to have a really good season. I think it's pretty 50-50 either way.
Yeah.
I would actually say probably in the end, had I been looking at this and had the crystal ball to look forward, I probably would have gone Fields and Eckler if I had to do it over again. But I think I'm kind of splitting hairs either way.
Yeah, Team 10 with the interesting strategy of no QB through 5 rounds right now, punting the position. That's going to sting.
You got to have guts. I mean, here's the thing: you've got to be able to play it differently sometimes.
Got to separate it.
And it's like last year, you get some guys who are going to bully tight end. He's going to bully running back.
It's so funny because when I was talking to Jeff right before I made the Pitts pick, I was like, do I zig or do I zag?
Right.
Because if I zigged, I was going to take Daniel Jones.
Yep.
But if I zagged, I was going Pitts.
Right.
I went Pitts.
I think that was the better pick, personally.
God, I like Daniel Jones, though.
I mean, he's
like
good
Daniel
in the
Jones.
scoring format. I get it. But I think Pitts is the solid rebound guy. between
Is Jones going to
between
run for
London.
700 yards again?
He could.
Could.
I mean, is that
I mean, that's all he does is
right? Because there's no
To-
one there
for
outside
me.
of
For me, with Saquon Barkley in the second round, I hope he doesn't.
Is he going to?
I think both of them could.
Is Saquon going to sign a contract?
But yeah, he'll be there. Between him and Josh Jacobs, obviously Josh Jacobs is the guy that we hear a lot more negative connotation to right now. Barkley, I think, will be in-house easily. I think he'll play. He'll do the right thing. He's a better teammate.
Sure.
When it comes down to it, he's just trying to he's trying to push and use a little bit of leverage, get a contract. It's probably not going to come. He's going to play. He's still going to do great. Second year in that day ball system, I think he exceeds expectations. Is what I'm thinking right now with Barkley and how things look right there.
Cool. I can dig it. Well, I
Yeah.
think we're getting ready to start back up, so I better go take a look at some things.
Right, there we go. Going to
I
kick
just
things
want to
back off.
Come in here and mess with you.
Yes. The additional organizer for the event helps things out tremendously. So, looking at finishing up Coca-Cola division on the end here, kind of trying to get things. Nick coming back over to take a picture of his team so far
It's always tough when you're trying to run a draft.
to try to keep things up. Yeah, try streaming while you're talking about the draft.
Yeah.
But like you said, you kind of like your start. I'm okay with where
So
I'm at.
let's go
so
back
far.
to your start. So Burrow, Barkley, Diggs, Hall. Now, I like your start so far. I personally don't like Evan Ingram. I think that's my only.
I think there's a regression factor possibly, like I've
if you
talked
could have gotten
about.
fire move, yeah. If you could have got any one of those tight ends, I think we'd be having a really good start.
Well, like
But
while I was doing the live stream, while we're talking about the draft as it's unfolding, I'm talking about each one of these guys and what my hopes is that they're going to fall to me and for my selection in the 5th round. And it seems like every guy that I named was getting taken as soon as I named that particular player. Like I said, I would have taken any one of those 4 tight ends prior to me taking Evan Ingram.
sure.
So it's just a
Now, like your start,
circumstance thing.
I think you and I are probably in the same boat as quarterback. I haven't got my quarterback 2. I've got a pretty good strategy for what I think QB2 is going to be
Right.
in this draft. You got the same amount of, we're right at the same positions actually on what you and I have.
Correct.
Well, it's a good thing nobody else in here is listening to us because I mean the running backs. I think we've got a little room to be able to go 4 or 5 deep in here in the next couple of rounds. So
Yep.
I'm probably going to hammer wide receiver, get a quarterback here pretty soon. Maybe go a second tight end just with the format.
True.
Because I think we can wait on running back here for a couple rounds.
I
There's
think
going to
that's
be
where
good
you're
running
gonna-
backs.
Yeah, you're going to start to see that. The running back thin out. Everybody's kind of, at this point in time, both divisions, quarterbacks kind of off the board. They've already kind of touched on tight end somewhat to a degree. So now you're going to start to see a lot more of the wide receivers start to come off the board. I think that's going to be the plan.
I play this to perfection the last couple of years is
Right,
taking that
exactly.
one quarterback early, waiting on wide receiver, because I think that's something you can do in here. Like, I think you can wait on wide receiver. They're not as valuable as other positions. Tight end has been trumped up a little bit as you kind of need one to be able to go forward. So,
Right. And that's what I kind of talked about during the stream so far leading into this is that you're seeing a little bit of difference between regular drafts to this draft. Is that with this draft, it's okay to go anchor wide receiver, go after your other positions, where a lot of the regular drafts, underdog that we've seen so far, a lot of the other teams that are doing, regular drafts up until this point, you're seeing hero running back, anchor running back, heavy wide receiver, going after your other positions that way. I think because of the scoring format with this particular league, you're seeing a little bit of the difference between those types of strategies, and I think that's what we're coming into.
Sure, and that's one of those things too. I don't think the scoring format year in year out changed much. I mean, granted, the tight end did change, but I don't think you're seeing. Sure, you're seeing a guy like Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews go in the first round like he did with yours, but outside of that, I don't think you're seeing much of a scoring change year in year out over what's going on.
Sure, I agree. Yeah,
All right,
that's
I'll be right
definitely a thing. Getting ready to kick things back off here, back half of this draft. Like I said, we're doing 10 rounds today, calling it a day, pausing things up until Monday and starting things up at that point. So it's so far so good with this draft. Like I mentioned, get a little bit of some insight from other draftees in this particular draft to kind of see how things are unfolding, how they like their team so far. I like that aspect. So right now, as we're in the pause of this draft, that we've got your fantasy managers up at the board, huddled around, talking about the starts, what they like, how things are going so far, discussing strategy. At its core, this is what Scott Fish wants, especially from the live draft situations. But this is what Scott Fish strives for with the Scott Fish Bowl. It's camaraderie, bringing everybody together, discussing fantasy football, and just like-minded individuals coming together and talking things through. That's at its core. That's what Scott Fish is really wanting to do when it comes to this particular tournament, and that's why it's the most sought-after tournament to get an invite into every single year, because it mixes in fantasy analysts like myself and then regular draftees. Right here. That's kind of the thing, is everybody wants to get in this. Fantasy analysts want to get in and draft with the casual drafters. Casual drafters want to be able to compete with fantasy analysts and really test your might, test your will, how good you are when it comes to fantasy drafting when we get into these big, large field tournaments like this. So that's definitely something that I like in the aspect of this particular type of drafting. But like I said, we're an hour and 19 minutes in on this particular live stream right now. I wanted to kind of just really give you insight, look into how this draft is unfolding so far. But at this point in time, before we get started in the back half, the next 5 rounds of this draft, I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to sign off for everyone here at Park Bench in Atlanta, in the Battery, next to the stadium for the Atlanta Braves. Want to again thank everybody here for being at Park Bench, being a part of this, letting us come in, use the facility.
We'll start back up here in just a couple minutes, all right?
Definitely much appreciation to them here for the hospitality and everything like that. So, but signing off here from Atlanta. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully we've given you a little bit of insight, help you as the Scott Fish Bowl officially gets underway. Scott Fish Bowl 13 starts off Monday morning, online leagues. Everybody's going to get a start there, except for the other straggling live drafts that are going to be starting up, I think, throughout this next week as well. So, again, signing off for Nick Heffley at The Real FF Goat on Twitter and myself at The Roto Superstar on Twitter. Follow us, give us a subscribe on the YouTube page for Woo Fantasy. On Twitter, it's at Woo_fantasy. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you on another episode of Woo Fantasy.